Hello and welcome to Blogging Theology. This evening I'm delighted to be with Professor Yamamoto from Marmara University in Istanbul. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum to you. And you kindly agreed to demonstrate and explain the significance of the Japanese tea ceremony for us today. I must say it's an extremely exciting opportunity, and you will be explaining the significance of this Islamically, I think, in terms of the virtue in this for Muslims as well. So without more ado, I hand over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to the important program. So today, I want to show, this is kind of like a cultural experiment for me to how to explain like Islamic value with using like a Japanese traditional format or the culture. And today, I will use this Japanese tea ceremony as like a tool to like contemplate about like Islamic visions. And reason why I'm using this Japanese tea ceremony is that Japanese tea ceremony, the culture of Japanese tea ceremony itself, is one of the oldest traditional Japanese culture in Japan. It started in like 500 years ago.
Wow.
And it was established by the tea artist called Sen no Rikyu. And many people assume that this Japanese tea ceremony is part of like Zen Buddhism culture. In one aspect, that is true, but the other, it might be no, because now many people believe that this Japanese tea ceremony is like a Zen Buddhism culture because it was performed by like Zen Buddhists and it was interpreted by the Zen Buddhists. That's why, and then it became like mainstream.
Right.
So that's why now the majority of the tea artists have like literacy of the Zen Buddhism. So that's why they think that this is like a Zen Buddhism culture. But if you look about like early history of the tea culture, like there was like a tea ceremony for the merchants, there was a tea ceremony for the samurais, like warriors, and there was a tea ceremony of like Zen Buddhists, and there even was a tea ceremony for like Japanese Christians, like Japanese Catholics. So there was like a Christian Japanese tea ceremony as well.
Wow. Really?
So this is part of my, how can I say, so I'm also studying like history of tea ceremony again, and I found out this tea ceremony itself is like a neutral. This is like open culture. Right. So this is just like a cultural tool to express the aesthetics of the individual who performed this tea ceremony. And if it is so, then of course like the Muslim can also use this tool to explain like Islamic visions. And I found like lots of like a common grounds between like the Japanese cultures and the Islamic cultures, and tea ceremony can be like a good example to remember this like a common spirituality between the two. For example, this is my grandmother's diploma of the tea ceremony.
Diploma of the tea ceremony? Yeah, so your grandmother's?
Yeah,
wow.
So this is my grandmother's.
Wow.
And this is like a certificate to prove that she.
Can I hold that up?
Yeah, she studied like tea ceremony.
I don't pretend to be able to read that, of course, but it's that's what it looks like, and it's on beautiful paper or something.
Yeah, and it's handwritten.
Handwritten, of course.
And then if we use English, like I use the word like a diploma or the certificate, but in Arabic you have exactly the word which describe this tradition, like ijaza tradition. Ijaza,
yes.
Yeah, means give the permission to transmit this like a culture.
As a reliable, authoritative person, not just a random person. So your grandmother was authorized to transmit.
Yes, like in Japanese we call kyojo. Kyojo means like ijaza, like giving permission to transmit this like heritage. So now if you only know like certificate or diploma, then you might assume that this tea ceremony is also like something which is taught in like a cultural center or like a classes. But it's not. This is also like a traditional art which also have like similar thing exist in Islamic civilization as well, like ijaza and the kyojo. And another interesting characteristic of the Japanese tea ceremony is that, for example, this is a fan which is used in tea ceremony, and this is like a silsila of the tea master. So this is a sign of the founder of the tea ceremony, Senno Q, and this is the second grandmaster, third, fourth, fifth. So this is all going on. So this tea ceremony also have not only like a silsila in 20th century, that this tradition continued from the 5,000 years ago and until the present.
Gosh.
And this fan, this is another fan which is used in tea ceremony, and this is like a poem about the tea ceremony. It's talk about the philosophy of tea ceremony.
The philosophy of I like
yes.
the philosophy of
like the importance of the service, like hidma, the importance of purify the intentions, like niya, and importance of like accepting or embracing the grace of the nature, or so on. And if you look at it, if you know about the history of Islam, you also have like lots of poems talk about like issue of like a kalam or like a fiqh or a tasawwuf. Like we also have a really similar culture, like in creating this in a poem, so that make it easy to memorize the philosophy of each discipline.
Right.
And tea ceremony also have the same concept.
Extraordinary. I mean, it's really beautiful as well. It's absolutely extraordinary.
And as I said, like in Islamic civilization, there is also like there is always like a master and disciple, like a murshid or the alim, or like a murid, and also the like, talib. Like, and this tea ceremony, not only the tea ceremony, but also the art of the flower or like the art of the sword. Like in the traditional Japanese culture, the masters always give like a ders, lecture to the students, and the students will learn from the master, and this is how they inherit the tradition. Like these knowledges or like a culture is not something you can learn like individuals, but you always have to find a master to learn. And this is not only about the knowledges, but also like akhlaq or like an atmosphere that the master has.
And this is a traditional Islamic way of learning as well. You have a student learns from his teacher. You don't go just buy a book and read it for yourself. You have to be taught by a person.
Yes.
It's more than just the text, it's the whole human formation, a holistic approach to education.
Yes. For example, like maybe like when you like a CV, in a Western way, you will write down where did you study, like a university or something, so like a university, like Kyoto University or like Tokyo University. Like this modern like education is more like institution oriented.
Yes.
But if you apply for like a madrasa or traditional like Islamic schools, then the first thing they ask us is that with whom did you study?
Yes.
And this tea ceremony also saying like this is not about the institution, this is about the masters.
Wow.
Like I also have like a certain like a sensei to study, and I also still a student. And in Japan, usually it takes like at least like 10 years or something, 20 years or 30 years to become like a masters. And this and when I study this this art of the tea ceremony, like I started to think that maybe I can use this beauty of the Japanese culture to introduce like Islamic heritage or like Islamic message not only to the Japanese audiences but also like Muslim audiences like outside of Japan. And for example, like today, usually like this tea ceremony is performed in like a tea room, like a traditional Japanese tea house. But for example, like now I'm doing in the UK in London.
Just to make clear, we're actually in a masjid, we're in a mosque, aren't we?
So I don't have any like in a tea room. But I don't think this is like a negative thing, and I don't think this is like insufficiency, because like this new environment might give a new like a creativity to the Japanese tea ceremony. For example, I don't have any wall to put on like a scroll, because in traditional Japanese tea ceremony, there is always like a Zen Buddhism scrolls on the wall. And before starting this tea ceremony, a student first reads the scroll to get like a moral message from it. So this is how some people interpret that this tea ceremony is like a Zen Buddhist culture. But for example, like instead of Zen scrolls, for example, we can use some like a quotes from Islamic classical books or Islamic poem. I mean, today I prepared this as the alternative for the Zen scrolls. This is written in kanji, Chinese character, but I took this word from this is
There you go. Typical ignorant Englishman, not knowing which way up it goes.
No.
So there you go. So that is Chinese, not Japanese, is that right?
Yeah, this is Chinese character. This means Isshin in Japanese pronunciation, infinite color. But in this context, it means tawajjuh. Tawajjuh is concentrating or focusing only on Allah and avoid all the distractions. And I took this word from like a Chinese Islamic classic here. Can you see?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so this is how, for example, like this Chinese Islamic classics tradition is also like, even though this is one of the most established and traditional like heritage in Islamic civilization, now we are in like collective amnesia that we couldn't cherish this heritage and try to use this for like a Muslim living today. I mean, there are so many like academic inquiries and academic studies about this Chinese Islam, but just using this material as like a really narrow sense, like academic like a scholarship, is not enough. This is what I believe, because in this way, I mean, it could be cherished, but it could be cherished like something which is cherished in like a British museum, like just store in a museum and that's it. Like you cannot touch, it's not tangible, it's not accessible. But here, precisely, I want to use this heritage for like a living tradition, like a living art. So that's why, like now I'm not in the environment where I can use dance scroll, but instead of it, I can use this Chinese Islamic classic, and I take the word and use it. I use it alternative. So now so that this Chinese Islamic classic can live in this Muslim community right now. And usually also this in Japanese tea ceremony they use wagashi, like Japanese sweets. But today I brought this dates.
It's very familiar. Of course, there's dates, of course. Yeah.
So in this way, like as you can see, like like there is like a way to express like Islamic values, by using this in a Japanese Islamic culture. So today, what I want to show you is like a part of my like a cultural experiment to think that how can we create this Japanese Islamic culture. And I don't believe that this is like a perfect or no, this is like a goal. This is just the beginning. And even starting this program could be important for Japanese Muslim, and also not only for Japanese Muslim, but also the Muslim outside of Japan, living like a Muslim in the UK or Muslim in other areas, to realize that Muslim community is more diverse than we imagine. And there is like my favorite hadith. Called like to hadith nas ala qadri uqulihim. It means that talk to the people according to the level of aql. And this aql means reasoning. I interpret this hadith like we can convey or we can articulate Islam according to our context. Like every millah, or every people have their own context, and as long as it suits like in the Quran and Sunnah, then we can establish our own taste to digest this Islamic morality. So from now on, I will start using the tea ceremony. But so this is the Islamic. Not this is Islamic. This is just Japanese tea ceremony. This is the tea utensils, and this tea utensils is also not. Maybe this is my fault. Maybe I should. Yes. So this tea utensils is also not just like tea utensils. Actually, this is the metaphor, and this is the metaphor of the macrocosmos. Like
metaphor of a
macrocosmos.
Microcosmos.
Yes.
Okay.
Like Adam Kabir, and a human being is the microcosmos. and microcosmos.
Right.
So this is macrocosmos and a microcosmos. And
Macro and micro.
Yes,
Okay.
macro-
Big and the small.
yes,
Yeah.
like alam al-saghir
Yeah.
and alam al-kabir. And this tea ceremony is believed that this is the art of like embracing the balance between the alam al-kabir and alam al-saghir, like macrocosmos and microcosmos. Because in Chinese philosophy, they believe the 5 major elements is a fire, water, and
Earth.
yes, earth and metal and the tree.
Tree.
Yes. Now this bamboo, this is the metaphor of the tree, and this teapot. Usually the teapot are made from like a metal. So this is the metal, and also the hot water is made from the fire and the water. And the tea bowl usually made from ceramic. So this is a symbol of the earth. So in this way, this tea utensil and considered from major 5 elements. So that's why this can be the metaphor of the macrocosmos. And human is a microcosmos, and before like serving the matcha, this the tea master will purify the tea set and to serve matcha. And I found that the similarity here between this Islamic culture and also Japanese culture, because if you read the books about fiqh, like Islamic jurisprudence, in the first chapter of the fiqh start with tahara, the purity. And the tea ceremony is also the same, like first chapter of the tea ceremony start with like purifying the tea utensils, like tahara. And from now on, I will purify this tea set, with this tea handkerchief we call fukusa. And this is another amazing things I found out is that when we fold the tea handkerchief, we use a pointing finger to fold this tea handkerchief. And I saw that and the Japanese are doing like a shahada. You notice it. But my master told me that actually this pointing finger is symbol that oneness perfects everything. That oneness will purify everything. So actually in the tea ceremony, there is a concept of oneness. I mean, they might not be like concept of like one God, but still, this tea ceremony respect the concept of oneness. So maybe like we Muslim, we can say like Allah is holding tea handkerchiefs, but still, there is kind of like amazing like resemblance between the two, and I will purify this. Now everything is purified. And now I will say, お菓子をどうぞ. お菓子をどうぞ means now you can eat the sweets, so you can have the dates.
Okay. Okay. Bismillah.
And first you will eat the sweet, and now and after that you will taste the matcha. But have you tried matcha before?
No.
Okay. So matcha is a little bit bitter, and sweet is also sweet.
Yes, it is.
And I interpret that this actually is also the metaphor of the human life. Like you will also taste the sweetness of your life, and you also have to embrace the bitterness of your life. And there is like a message in the Quran too, like in the mouth of Yusra. Like there is difficulties with the easiness, and there is the easiness with the difficulties. You have to embrace the both. So in this way, like we actually this tea ceremony it reflects the spiritual life of the human being. So now we enjoy the sweetness, and you're ready for the bitterness.
So I'm drinking.
Yes. If you're drinking, at first you say ありがとうございます. Can you say ありがとうございます? ありがとう.
I don't think I could repeat that, no. As you said, yes, you said it very slowly. I'm not going to remember it.
ありがとう. ありがとう.
Agitako.
ございます. Go. ざい
Zai.
ます.
Mas.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. But important here is that you don't have to thank me because I'm just a creature.
Right.
Like in tea ceremony, we say arigato to some kind of like divine who create this moment. Because in tea ceremony, there is a word called ichigo ichie. Ichigo ichie is that you may not encounter this moment once again. And this will be the last moment that we might encounter because nobody knows what will happen next. So this means that we have to cherish this moment by this drinking tea.
Okay.
Yes. And can you turn the cup like 2 times then? Yes. And then you get it.
That's surprisingly nice. I wasn't expecting it to be nice. It's good.
Maybe I managed to put my kindness to it.
Yeah. It's a very subtle taste.
Oh.
And obviously you can't taste it from the camera, but it's quite green and not unpleasant. I'll give it back to you.
Oh, can you finish?
Oh, finish it.
Yeah, because you have to taste the whole difficulties of your life.
There's a bitterness to it as well. Now I can taste that. Well, what is the powder that you use to?
This is green tea.
This is green tea.
Yeah, this is powdered green tea.
Thank you. I'll make it more.
Oh, thank you. And if there is another participant, like we will share the same table. This is how we clean our time. So when one finishes drinking, then we first do. Like this. So this is how you can keep the table always clean. And some people think that I'm joking, like try to create like a Japanese Islamic culture, but actually I'm really serious because even like in drinking coffee, but actually the culture of meditation in Islamic civilization. I mean, this is not the innovation of the Starbucks or something because Starbucks is really new. Like actually, this kahwa was used by like Sufi sheikhs, and there was the Sufi tariqah called Andalusia tariqah. In Yemen, and they have the certain ritual of drinking coffee for the meditation. For example, they were using the word like Arakawi is one of Allah's name when they're drinking coffee. And if such culture exists in some civilization, why don't Japanese Muslim cannot create like something like similar by using those Islamic cultures? And another like a culture project I want to introduce is that this is the fan used by Japanese tea ceremony, which print the like poems of the tea ceremony. Like in the future, if I manage to create like this Japanese Islamic tea ceremony, this is the fan that I wanted to use, and this fan is that I found it on a manuscript from the Chinese Islamic classic, and this is the poem of the philosophy of Islam, the vision of Islam, which is written by the Chinese Islamic scholar Liu Zui.
And when was he alive?
He's 18th century.
18th century. Okay.
But like Liu Zui is quite well known among like Islamic scholarship in academia, but we only cherish his heritage as like academic inquiries. But this is what I always emphasize, that we should not use this Islamic classic for like this academic research. We need to inherit this new intellectual heritage to for our like daily lives, or like we can think about like creating like new like Islamic cultures by like using those like rich heritages. And now, with this Japanese tea ceremony, like I found this really beautiful like art, and I think Japanese should be proud of it. But now, in general, this traditional Japanese culture are now in decline. Now fewer and fewer Japanese people are practicing those Japanese cultures. But I like this concept like a cultural imperative. It means like I believe that this is the cultural imperative for like Japanese Muslim. It means like becoming Muslim is not like giving up our like a cultural background.
Yeah, you're not required to become an Arab, are you? If a Japanese person or an English person becomes Muslim, embraces Islam, they're not required to become an Arab. They're required to. It's a very different set of affairs, isn't it? You can be English as much as it's compatible with the Quran and the Sunnah, but much of it is, of course.
Yes, like we can also respect the Quran and Sunnah, and also the Japanese Muslim can be like a best interpreter of the Japanese cultures or the Japanese literatures, not just the best interpreter. Like we can be like a best the protector, or we can be like a best like a practitioner of the Japanese cultures. And as I said, if you look at the early history of Japanese tea ceremony, there was a tea ceremony for the samurai, there was a tea ceremony for the samurais, and there was a tea ceremony for the Catholics. And it means that this is the open cultures. So it means like this. I believe the tea ceremony is also waiting for the new creativity, and this like Islam worldview or Islamic aesthetic can bring this new vitality to the tea ceremony. And I think this is the same in the, for example, like Muslim living in the UK as well. Like in the Muslim living in the UK can also be like a best interpreter of the picture of like William Turner, also the interpreter of the like of the poems of William Blake, and also they can be the best practitioner of the like a British afternoon tea or something. Because this is how following the Quran and Sunnah doesn't mean that doesn't mean that we're giving up on something. Like following the Quran and Sunnah is actually give us like new vitality to respect our own heritage. Right. And this is just this is actually just the beginning. But in the future, like I want to develop this practice, and also I want to make like a certain like theory of it. And now I'm creating like a pamphlet titled like, "Is it possible to create a Japanese Islamic culture?" Like, is it possible to create Japanese culture?
Well, you demonstrate that it is, but can you just explain and summarize the Islamic virtue that you see in the tea ceremony, those points of contact?
Yes. So in general, this tea ceremony, this is the art of service, the art of the khidmah, and this the philosophy of khidmah can be learned from like a relationship between like a murshid, like a master, and disciple. And before the starting this tea ceremony training, the students and master bow to each other. And this means like there is no master without a student, and there is no student without a master. The two are completing each other to reach to the reality. So this, but if you look about like modern like Western films or entertainment, like there is no such kind of moral message. The importance of masters and importance of discipleship. Like now the people think that we can be like perfect without any support.
Yes.
That you can be perfect by your own individual. But traditional education not this. And there is like strict citizenship, and also we are learning this tradition by serving the others.
Right.
And there is like Arabic message. The Arabic word which I heard is called ithar. Ithar means altruism. So the Japanese traditional culture.
Altruism?
Yeah, altruism.
Yeah.
Yeah, like helping others.
Yeah.
Or respecting others, like more than yourself. And this, and I believe that all Japanese art is also based on this ithar, like altruism, and also and relationship between master and disciple, and also the khidma, and also this is like art of like ihsan, like giving best to the others.
Yes. Islam is such a key concept, isn't
Yeah,
it?
key concept.
Islam, yeah.
So, like now, I think even like Japanese Muslims, we are a bit confused that we don't know how to connect our heritage to the Islamic values. But what is important is that we just need a proper perspective to interpret our like, cultural backgrounds. And as long as we can acquire that, there is no there is something that maybe we must avoid from our traditional cultures, but there is always like creativity that we can integrate those like Islamic values and like Japanese cultures. And more importantly, like you don't have to compromise yourself with the majorities. Like I also like the Star Wars series, and especially I like the Mandalorian series. Like Japanese Muslim can be like a Mandalorian. Like we can keep some like the best philosophy of the Japanese cultures, and we can be like a best practitioner. So yeah, inshallah. So this is one of my recent like a project, and inshallah, if I can finish my pamphlet about like Japanese Islamic culture, I also want to get like feedback from the other like Muslim audiences.
So what I find so fascinating here is that you're envisaging a Muslim attempt to preserve and promote traditional Japanese practices and the tea ceremony in a new creative way, just like the Catholics did before, and the people who practiced Buddhism before, and the samurai, and now Muslims also can treasure and promote and maybe preserve these practices which are under threat, you say. They're diminishing today in Japan, but Muslims can actually help preserve them. So you're doing a service to the Japanese culture, as well as enriching it and making it more Muslim, if you like.
Yes, and a bit as you said, actually this is what the Islamic tradition was. Like, for example, like Greek philosophy. Like Greek philosophy had once forgotten in the history of humanity, but Islamic scholars rediscovered the Greek philosophy, and they developed it on the level of philosophy, and they proposed it in the global world. So this is why now everybody knows about Greek philosophy. Now, without those like Ibn Rushd or Ibn Sina or like Ghazalis or like other like Islamic philosophy, like nobody knew about the Greek philosophy. Like this Islamic civilization actually saved this Greek tradition, and also the other culture as well. And it's quite unfortunate that now somehow like we Muslims forgot this like a cultural like a creativity of Muslim community once existed in the past. And also, what I like about Muslim community is that Muslim community always like this young powers. For example, now I hear like a voice of children. This is what I never heard in Japan, because Japan is so aged society. We have less and less children.
Gosh.
But you can always hear like a voice from children and the babies in the Muslim community. some of them fighting, some of them are playing each other. Like this is like a vitality of the Muslim community. So. And if we can produce more creativity in the Muslim community, then this is not only for the benefit for the Muslim community, but it also can be benefit for the non-Muslim community as well. In the case of Japan, as I said, now Japanese are more secularized, and they are now more away from their tradition. So that's why we can show like more respect to our tradition more than the other Muslim Japanese.
Well, then, is that concluded? So should we?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Professor Yamamoto, for your time and extraordinary experience. And I do wish you all the best in promoting this and helping us all to understand that this fascinating juxtaposition or synthesis between the Japanese and the Islamic. So thank you very much, Sir.
Thank you very much, Alex.